In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to use the fill layer options as well as manipulating and changing around the material options in the properties. So here we have a basic layer. Right at the top here, you have all these different options. So you have effects, you have masks, you have a layer, and you also have this option here called fill layer. Now, if I just quickly paint on this using this brush, you'll see that uh, I'm just painting on the actual model itself. However, if I use the fill option, what this does is it allows me to fill the entire shader with a particular color or a particular texture. So if you know that you have a object which is going to have sort of like a base color all the way around it, this is probably the best option that you can use. And with the fill option, you can do a lot of really cool effects to not just fill the entire thing, but you can add in the sort of like the edge wearing or put like say splodges or cracks within it using the fill layer. It's not all just using the brushes. The fill layer can pretty much be like your main source of texturing in Substance Painter. So I'm going to change this to something a bit more appropriate. I'm going to change this to sort of like a dark, sort of grey, almost blackish, if anything else. Something like that. So underneath the properties here, you'll see you have the fill options and you also have the material options. The material options essentially tell you what channels you are using. So on this fill layer right now, we are using the color, height, roughness, and metal. And underneath here, you've got all those channels as well. So you've got the base color. If I click on that, I can change it to like say a red or to a blue or to whatever color that I see fit. You have a height information. This is quite similar to the normal map. Again, it just sort of describes sort of extrusions and intrusions. It's a bit more complicated than normal map, but they're kind of similar. Roughness map, again, we've talked about this in the past, and also metallic. And you can see here we have these sliders. And don't forget, all of these maps here work in grayscale. So black meaning one thing, white meaning another thing. So obviously black here means that it's extremely smooth, white meaning that it's very rough. So you can see here, again, it's very smooth, very clean. So you're getting those sort of reflective elements of the background, which obviously we can't see right now. And even with the metallic as well, so I forgot this to full white. This is a pure metal object. So you can always mess around and find what you kind of need. So this is kind of like a painted metal. So I probably say it might have little to no metallic information whatsoever. And I might make it just a little bit smooth, but not too smooth. And again, you can turn this on and off. So if I make this full metal, I can just turn that off and say, okay, we're not using that metal channel, or we're not using the roughness channel, for instance. So certain layers, you may only just work with one, so make sure you turn them on and off as you see fit. But for now, I'm going to pretty much use all these for this particular one right now. And make it just slightly smooth, and no real metal at all. So what I can do here as well is that I'm not just stuck with sort of the base information. I can actually add certain textures or alpha maps on top of these channels. So with the roughness map, maybe this site has seen a bit of action. Maybe it's a bit dirty or maybe it's a bit scratchy. If I click on where it says roughness, click on it, it brings up this sort of mini shelf which you can search for anything that you want. So again, I'm going to type in dirt. So it filters through everything with that with those words in it. So you can kind of find something that you might like. So I'm going to go for something like this grunge dirt scratched. So you see now that in the roughness map that we've added in that sort of grunge dirtiness to it, and it's all over this map here. And I can use these options here to increase or decrease the I can increase and decrease the look of it. That's kind of like almost full on increase or change the contrast a little bit. So you can see some of that smooth elements are coming through. I can also rotate it as well. At the top here you have your projection option. Now you can change this from UV projection to triplanar projection. Now triplanar is quite useful to get rid of some seams, so if you know that your UV shell cuts off at a certain point, you can use this to kind of fill that particular option as well. And you can also scale it as well. So right now I'm going to go on roughness. I can just scale this texture as much as I want, or I can decrease it as much as I want as well. give it a bit of an offset, or even rotate it as well using these options. So I'm just going to go back really quick and just play around with that option. So I'm going to put this in the middle, use that dirt one again. I think that's probably a better one if anything else. And just increase or decrease the contrast as I see fit. Now, at the top here, you can see that you have blending options as well, just like in Photoshop. So if you go over it, you got the similar sort of ones you find in Photoshop, so multiply, divide, darken, etc. But these only affect certain channels. So right now it's only affecting the base color. So if I turn this down to 0, you'll see that the roughness map is still there. So I can go over and actually influence each individual channel. So I can go to roughness and say maybe that's a bit too strong. I could just change it ever so slightly, or maybe I can just say max dark, and I'll just change around the options as I see fit to other ones as well. So I'm just going to add in another fill layer at the bottom and probably multiply that. I'll put this at the top and make its roughness map just ever so slightly. So something like this, for instance. So you can see that I'm just using this. So I'm making that full-on rough. But I might want to play around with this here, just to see what I get. So you can see that I'm using the different channels to kind of play around and experiment with what works. So I kind of like this. This doesn't look too bad. So this is a good starting point, but I can do a lot more with this. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start adding in some effects and play around and manipulate this using some of the effects options here.